People need an income that's guaranteed to them.
If you lose money to taxes, you're never getting that money back.
You need to get serious about adding some lower risk.
Greed. I don't like greed.
The thing to be afraid of, honestly, is the thing that we're not thinking of, the black swan event.
There's a tsunami coming. Bye.
Welcome to Retirement Coffee Talk with Charisse Rivers.
Just coffee talk.
There's a lot of noise, a lot of chatter. Who do you listen to? Who do you not listen to? You have to stay focused.
A fun and informative look at the issues of wealth, retirement, and protecting your life savings.
These advisors out there that were trained to sell, and have all these fees. They don't want to talk about this product, so they make less money.
And now, Retirement Coffee Talk with Charisse Rivers.
Hello again, and welcome to Retirement Coffee Talk with Charisse Rivers at Zinnia Wealth. My name is Randy Cook, and each week Charisse and I get together and talk through some of the things that I bet you are wondering about. This whole idea of retiring and stepping away from your paycheck. It's pretty nerve-wracking, but you've been saving well over these years, and you just wonder if what you've done is going to get you to where you want to go, and that is why we have this show. Charisse, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, and it's been a fun summer. I have a sunburn. I shouldn't have a sunburn, but I have a sunburn, and it hurts today.
Okay,
I just
all
want
right.
you to know. So I'm great. I'm super tan. I am getting ready for this has been a long time coming. I have clients always asking me. We got pictures in the office, but I'm getting ready for the 29029 Everstein hike, right? And so I have 12 more weeks till this hike. It's in Mont Tremblant, Canada. And it's where you are hiking the distance of Everest, but it's actually a little bit longer, so 30,000 feet. And it is the toughest thing ever done in my life. I mean, I've done half marathons. I've done some tough stuff out there. And this hike, I will tell you, it's a 36-hour endurance challenge. It took me 36 hours. I would say 35 hours and 45 minutes. I was the last one, but I finished it. That's all I cared about. But I did get a little hiccup along the mountain, so I had to slow down. But anyways, nevertheless, I'm motivated, I'm fit and healthy, and so let's talk about making your portfolios fit and healthy.
Well, we climb a mountain to get to our retirement, and you're climbing real mountains out there, so kind of getting it in real life as well. So that is one of the reasons that we have this show, is to say, you know what, we understand that it is like a mountain to climb when it comes to your retirement planning. It can be kind of foreboding, but we want to make it easy for you, and that's why we have this show, is to say, hey, come on in, let's do the math on your retirement. And I know that the number one fear all the time, we say it over and over, it's the same every year. Everybody comes in and they wonder, am I going to run out of money? So that has actually resulted in a new problem. So people think they're going to run out of money. So what do? They've saved well, but they don't spend. They don't enjoy their money, and therefore they don't enjoy their retirement like they could. So Charisse, I know you and I have talked about this before. Do you see it a lot? And how do you help people get over this?
Yeah. So when people start to retire, we have this spending plan. We've worked it out where we're front loading their retirement 10 to 15 years in advance. This means we're going to take more income. So we might be taking more, like 10,000 or 20,000 more during our go years, why we are the healthiest, why we enjoy our money the most, because I promise you, the older you get, the less you enjoy your money, because life sets in and health issues step in. So do it now. And, when you look at the data out there, Randy, the data says that people, when they're in their 70s, they're always saying, I wish I would have spent more, because you still have your money sitting there, and it's probably higher than it was when you retired at 60, and because your money's still growing. And that's because people fear running out of money. Therefore, they take less money because they haven't had a written income plan. People don't see it, so they don't believe it, so they spend less. So I just had a doctor come in. It's been 3 years now, and we have an income plan, and they are still shorting themselves $25,000. I was like, why are we not taking this extra $25,000? She's like, we're doing so well. We're just not spending it. I'm like, the goal of the next 10 to 15 years while you're the healthiest is to spend this money, because there's still going to be $4 million, down the road when you're 85 years old for long-term care and a legacy if we pass away sooner or later. I said, so why aren't we spending the money? And she sat back. She went, okay, we need to spend this money. You're right. And in the appointment, it's the second one we had this year with her, was really to say, can we, even though we've done this every year? And the answer is yes, you can. And sometimes people have to see it over and over and over again. So now we're working on, okay, here's the distributions. We're going to pull it from here. Now, when you come in 6 months or a year from now, I want that money spent and I want you asking for the rest. But really what we want an autopilot. We want to send it to people monthly, but some people don't want that much monthly. They just give it to me every 6 months or once a year, and then they kind of divvy it out from there. So educating people that they can spend it because they're allowed to spend it. And I don't know what I was listening to, Randy, but they say the average retiree that has, I don't know, somewhere under $1 million, by the age of 70 or 75, they have only spent maybe 20% of their assets. And I'm like, hello, we're already halfway to the end, people, right? So, and that's because of that fear. So our goal is come in, we're going to teach you about our spending plan strategy, when we're going to take these dollars, and then how long are we going to take them and how much. And then we're going to say, hey, can we take more? How much does it derail the portfolio and the estate plan when we're 85, down the road? And people just love seeing that because they're like, wow, I really don't need a long-term care policy. Oh, I really can spend this much more money every year. And it just gives them that reassurance to do so. And we're only showing a 3% rate of return. Like if we do any better than that, which I would be fired if that's all we did for the next 20 years, right? It's very pessimistic. And we're showing their income going up every year with inflation as well. So coaching, educating, and sometimes people don't get it right away. And we're just kind of pushing the envelope. Every time we have a review, let's spend some money. I see there's cash. So that's something that I get a kick out of because it's so much fun. I know our advisors do too. And we're all about inspiring a joyful and confident retirement, right? So to have a joyful retirement, you have to have some confidence. And how can you have confidence if you can't see the spreadsheet, right?
There you go. And I think that throughout our entire lives, many of us are put ourselves on a budget, so we save. Isn't it interesting that when we get into retirement, we go on a spending plan, so we spend that money that we've saved. And let's have that freedom and that confidence to go out there and do the things we want to do in retirement and know that that bucket's going to get filled up every single month, and we have the confidence that we can go do these things. Give us a call. Let's sit down and build a plan like that for you. Our number is 833-368-3680, 833-368-3680, or use our website, which is zinniawealth.com, ZINNIA wealth.com. There's a gold box. It says complimentary retirement consultation. Click on that and you'll be on your way. Now, we talk about a lot of different people coming into the office. Some people say, I can't wait to retire. Charisse, get me retired. Other people, they've been downsized and they have to retire, or there's a health issue and they're forced to retire. But there's another group out there too. People who are in their 60s and they're doing great in their jobs and things are going well. They're valuable and their employers want them to stay. And I'm looking at this article here in MoneyWise and says, for those of you where things are going really, really well, this is the perfect time to sit down with a financial advisor because it gives you options. So, Charisse, explain to me what they're talking about there.
Yes. So let's say you're 55. You're saying, I want to retire at 59 and a half because that's when I can touch my IRAs, my 401ks, and not have a penalty, right? Because you have a penalty if you touch your money prior to 59 and a half on average. But what happens between the ages of 55 to 59 and a half? Anything can happen. You're probably overpaid, right? Somebody could be buying out your company and all of a sudden they're going to notice you're overpaid. Next thing you know, you're retiring 2 years earlier. Or what if you get a health issue, or your spouse gets a health issue, or your mom or dad gets a health issue? Now you have to retire because you got to help people. So my strategy here at Zinnia Wealth is come in of even a few years before you think you're going to retire, and let's put the plan together. Because you might just one day wake up in 1 week from our appointment, or 2 years from our appointment, or 3 years from an appointment and say, I don't want to retire in 4 years. I want to retire now. Because you know what, Charisse and staff, you showed me a plan. And now I'm just tired of working because I don't like my boss anymore. I don't like my new boss. And you know the plan. And so this happened years ago. A Coca-Cola executive came in, and he came in under an emergency. He said, Charisse, I just got my 2-week notice. I've been listening to you on radio. I should have gotten my butt in here. Can I retire, or do I have to go find another job? And we could retire him. He did not have to find another job. We're 7 years into our relationship, and they're just, in Nashville dancing on bars and having a good old time in retirement. It's so funny. I get videos all the time. And anyways, moral of the story is that individual was very stressed coming in this office. What if it's be nice just to look at your boss and say, screw you, I'm out of here.
Well, it does kind of give you the power. If you sit down and build a plan and say, you go, hey, everything's going fine right now. But if you build a plan that says, here, you could retire now, next year, 2 years from now, 3 years from now, 4 years from now, whatever. And then do you find that once that plan is in place and people have that in their head, their attitude changes just a little bit and you see them quicker than what you thought?
Yes, and that is the case. So we do retire people a lot earlier than most people could ever imagine, because I know you're thinking, well, Sheree, I don't think I can retire until I'm 59 and a half. If I got 4 years left to go, because I'm trying to hit that $1 million number, I will implore you to get in here and let us do the math, because we have retired people that have said, hey, I need a heavy amount from these retirement accounts. I've retired them at 600. I've retired them at 700, 800,000, 900,000. Some people, yes, you are in that boat where you do have to wait till you've saved 2 million because you spend too much. And we want to make sure that you can continue to not have to change your lifestyle. But more, I would say 9 out of 10 times, literally, it's probably 9 out of 10 times, we're getting people retired earlier because they forget we turn on their Social Security checks. Some people have pensions. Some people have real estate. And people, if your income is $100,000 now while you are working, you don't need $100,000 when you're retired, most likely, because that $100,000 you're probably contributing to a 401k. You have all these other things you're paying for, and we have to look at the full bucket of where are these dollars going. And most people, Randy, that $100,000 have an income, we're finding an average of $500 to $1,000 a month is just going to savings and they're not even spending it. So once we dial in and do the math and take the inventory, we got to take your inventory. Do you have your debt paid off? Are there credit cards? Is there car payments? Do we need a new car? Do we need a new roof? Right? Is a mortgage paid off, which I think I already just said. And then look at the fixed income, Social Security. When do we want to start that? Pensions, all those different dynamics. Do you have real estate? Do you want real estate? Do we want to add that into the portfolio? So it's a pretty big part of our first appointment is getting to know you and what you're doing. But at the end of the day, this amazing individual said, jam up jelly tight. We want to make your retirement jam up jelly tight even before you retire, so you know you're good to go.
Have you ever had anybody who you've really had to nudge and say, hey, all the numbers are here. What are you doing? And then when they finally retire, because this is what retirees say, what's your biggest regret? I should have retired earlier. Have you had anybody go, you were right, Charisse, I'm loving this?
Oh my gosh. Can I just tell you about somebody who just came in? Just a client dear to my heart. I mean, so many of my clients are dear to my heart, but this one took a lot of work. This individual worked his butt off, ran an amazing company, made him tons of money, gave a lot of money away to friends and churches and donations and all this kind of stuff. And he's getting to this age, and he was about to turn 62. And Charisse, I'm here. I need you to tell me that I need to retire. I'm having a hard time retiring. I don't know how to sell this business. What do I need to do? So it took him a year to finally do it. But boy, we are on 3 years. He came in for his review this past week. And you know what he said? And every year when I see him, I see a different spark in his eye. And this year there was a massive spark. And you know what he told me? These are his words. I'm like, I've got to use it on radio. It was beautiful. If it was any better, I couldn't stand it. He's saying if retirement was any better, I couldn't stand it. That's how much he's loving retirement. And he says, it feels like I can dunk a basketball. I'm like, oh my gosh. I'm like, praise Jesus. I love that. And he's spending more time with God. He's spending more time on the boat. He's spending more time with his wife, driving his wife crazy probably. But it was just so amazing to hear those words come out of his mouth. He was nervous. We had to build this income plan, and, he's doing exactly what we had planned. And he's loving it. And he shared those words, and it just warmed my heart. It was great.
These are great stories. And I know that that's really rewarding for you, because this is why you're in this business. And that's the kind of story that we would love to write for you. And if you come on in, let's do the math on your retirement and see what we can do for you. We call it a portfolio X-ray. If you look on the website, you're going to see the words complimentary retirement consultation. There's a button right there. click that. What that is exactly what it says. It's a free meeting where we sit down, no obligation, no cost there, and we're going to get to know you and figure out what you've done for retirement, all the things that you've done to save, and what that means for you. When can you retire? How will you retire? What does this mean? You may be surprised at the answers that come back. Let's get you that information. 833-368-3680. Again, 833-368-3680 or online at zinniawealth.com. All right, Cherise, somebody writes into the Market Watch Advisor column and says, my accountant told me that I should not retire mid-year because I'll have to pay back a lot of my Social Security. What is my accountant talking about? I don't get this. So let's talk about that a little bit. People pick their retirement date. Sometimes it's within their power. Sometimes it's not. Why would it be a problem to retire mid-year? And does that mean it's better to retire in January?
Yeah, no, I don't think there's any better or worse time to retire. You just need to know the math. So if you retire in June and July, but yet maybe you made $100,000 in wages prior to that, and then you start your Social Security check in August, and now you're getting to the end of the year. Yeah, there's some tax calculations you have to look at that you're not used to. It's called the Social Security Provisional Income Formula. So yeah, that could hit you pretty hard, but that just means if we're worried about it, like when we're sitting down with the clients, if they're retire midway, I'll be like, okay, so this is what's going to change with Social Security, and this is going to be the taxes, and this is how much they're not going to give you or versus give you. And you really have to put that into the written plan and understand that, because you don't want surprises, the following year. And in Medicare, so this person, also was on Medicare. So they had their $100,000 in wages, and then they took another $100,000 or so for investments, and then they started Social Security. So now Medicare is off the chart. So they're not paying $185 a month. They're paying maybe $350 a month. And
wow.
So they didn't know that, but that won't hit them for 2 more years or a year and a half now.
Okay.
But the fact that they really wanted to know this information because they said, okay, well, I could have lived off cash, not actual investments, or I could have changed my strategy, my withdrawal strategy, so that Medicare doesn't get hit in a year and a half, and so that my Social Security provisional income doesn't get hit. I could have waited to take Social Security, lived off some of my cash, and strategize. So it's really all about strategy and understanding what are the hazards along the way, whether it's Social Security, Medicare, depending on, are you 62 or are you 64, or are you 68 and retiring? There's so many rules out there when it comes to retirement planning that you need to understand before you just hang it up, turn in those keys, walk out that double door with your last check and say bye. And you want to be aware of them, because people do not like surprises because they're on a fixed income in retirement. So what if you weren't flush in cash, you weren't flush in investments? You certainly want to dial in and figure out, okay, well, Sharice, advisors, other advisors, staff, what are my hazards? Anything I need to look for in the future if I do this? Tell me if I'm pulling out of the wrong accounts or the right accounts, and those types of things. So, Randy, it's interesting. Most retirees, they are not sure of the withdrawal strategy. They just make these assumptions. I'm going to pull from my Roth. Bad idea. You don't pull from your Roth first. I'm gonna turn on Social Security and delay my IRA withdrawals, or vice versa. They'll say, I'm gonna live off my IRAs and delay Social Security because there's some delayed retirement credits you could earn. Listen, stop pretending you know what the heck you're doing, because until you get software like mine that is heavily loaded in costs that I had to put into and rejigger and recreate, don't assume, don't hope. I see this all the time. And then boom, this compounding effect hits you or smacks you right in the face. You're like, oh, I didn't see that coming. Do you know how many people come in? It's like, oh, I thought I had this figured out. Didn't see that coming.
Didn't see that coming. So it sounds like what this is, it's a 1-year spike in your retirement income. It's almost like you sell a business and all of a sudden you have this huge windfall because you sold that business, and that 1 year you get hammered with taxes because of it. Or take, for instance, somebody who may have a pension and they decide they're going to take that lump sum. Well, then that goes on to your income that year and you get hammered that particular year in taxes. So these are the kind of things, if this is what you think you might be in for, boy, we talk about doing your retirement math. It's really important, isn't it?
Yes, retirement math is so important. This is why it's so important to work with a retirement planner, not just a stock jock, not just an insurance agent, there's so many advisors out there. And the one that you need, if you're 55 to 75 years old, is a retirement planner that understands the hazards you're going to go through when you're collecting Social Security, penalties, taxes, delayed retirement credits, alphabet soup, and then Medicare, IRMA. I mean, let me introduce you to ugly Irma. You guys know who that is? I hope there's no Irmas out there. I'm sure you're all beautiful. But nevertheless, it's how you take your Medicare premium when you're on Medicare at age 65 or older from $185 a month to $550 a month. Let's try not to let that happen. And if you're rolling IRAs over to Roth, welcome to Miss Irma again, potentially. So we want to talk about the math, what makes sense. There's a lot of hazards along the way. And then buttoning up your estate plan, making sure your beneficiary is right. So if you pass away earlier or later, like your assets don't go through probate. And that's the bread and butter for attorneys. Let's not give attorneys more, 5 to 10% of your total estate goes through probate. Those dollars are going to the attorney. In long-term care, elder planning. We had somebody come in recently. I said, you don't need a long-term care plan. My income plan says you're going to have $5 million. Like, you have plenty. You plan on spending $1 million a year on a nursing home? They're like, no. So there's so many things you have to think about. You have to point out, hey, here's something that's going to be a hazard. If we do this, this will happen. So are we sure we want to do this? And if we do it, what's it going to cost us in the long run? And does it make sense? So doing the math to retirement, that's what we do here. And if you want us to continue to help inspire a confident and joyful retirement, let us do the math. If it's Medicare, if it's making those decisions to keep your employer insurance or go to Medicare, if it's taking Social Security at 62 or waiting to age 70, if it's I want to roll an IRA over to a Roth, we surely need to do the math. And so estate planning, do we get a will? Do we get a trust? Do we get a dynasty trust? Do we get an irrevocable trust? Like what do we need to do? And that's what we're going to help you figure out.
Yeah, I think that's such an important aspect of having a financial advisor in your life. You might make a decision financially, and you should look at the pros and cons of it and look at the up and the down. What is this going to cost me, especially when it comes to taxes? It's such an important question to ask, and it's certainly something that we're going to go through as we sit down and do that complimentary retirement consultation. And that's ongoing support as well, because, sitting down with Sharice and building that retirement plan, that's not the last time you're going to see her. You're going to make financial decisions in your life. There are things that are going to happen in your life, good and bad, and you're going to need some financial advice along the way. Sharice is right there for you, walking through your retirement with you. Give us a call. Give us a look on our website. 833-368-3680. 833-368-3680. Or online, you can find us on our website, zinniawealth.com, ZINNIA wealth.com. There's a gold box. It says complimentary retirement consultation. Click on that. We'll ask you to put in a little information there, and you'll be on your way. What is a long-term investor? I get it. You're 20, you're 30, you're 40 years old, and you've got a lot of time. And so they tell you take more risk because you've got a lot of time. But then when you get to be 65, they tell you dial back your risk because you don't have as much. And I go, well, what if you're in retirement for 25 years or 30 years? Aren't you still a long-term investor, even as somebody who's in retirement? So it's kind of a balancing kind of a thing here, Sharice. How do we rationalize all that?
So am I still a long-term investor when I'm in retirement? It's a yes and no answer. And I would say if you're 35, you're in a different season of life than when you're 65, right? So when you're 35, you are an absolute long-term investor because you're not living on your money, you're putting money in. So you can take risk because when markets go down, as you put more money in, you're buying those stocks at a lower value, right? Okay. So now, fast forward, we're 65. We're no longer putting money in. We are receiving money. We're taking money. We're living on it finally. I mean, that's the whole point of saving these dollars. So now we're in this decumulation phase of our life. And so it absolutely changes. Yet your brain, the neurology, what's going up in that ticking time bomb, you got to change it when you enter this season of life. But it takes people years. And sometimes if it takes you years to say, I've got to get out of this risk strategy and start implementing a whole lot of more safe strategies. Sometimes you are the unlucky person. The stock market crashes. Now you're pacing up and down the hallway at 2 o'clock in the morning, your spouse saying, woulda, coulda, shoulda. I could not click in fast enough. I thought I had to have all this growth. And now your 401k turned into a 201k. And now you cannot even book your cruises or your trips for the next 4 to 5 years while you crawl out of this hole, because that is how people run out of money, booking cruises while you're trying to climb out of a hole that you just lost a lot of money in. And not realizing it till later and thinking, oh, my $1 million didn't grow back to $1 million after it went to 500. Oh, I'm not putting money in. I'm taking money out. This is different. Okay, it's clicking in now. Well, it's a little too late. So now you have to change your lifestyle because you didn't tune in sooner. You didn't click and change the brain and how it works when it comes to growth and now decumulation. So we're still going to have growth. You can still have money in the market, but you can't have, in my opinion, all your money in the market.
Got it. That makes total sense. The dynamic changes when you go into retirement from saving to spending, and we have to change our philosophy. Is it hard sometimes for you to convince people that they have to do that? Because as much as we say people don't spend their money, there are probably people that look at you and say, well, I don't want to give up growth, Charisse. I want my money to grow even while I'm in retirement. I want to take more risk. So do you have to fight that?
So I'll give you an example who's come into our office. Somebody had $5 million. We did 3 appointments with them, and they're 100% at risk. 100% at risk.
Okay.
And they're in their 60s. And I said, are you guys in a season of life it's about what you keep or what you make? And they said, oh, what I make. I said, okay, well, my portfolio x-ray is saying if there's another market meltdown and big crash, like a 2007-8 time period, you're going to lose 55%. And I said, how does that make you feel? There was zero feeling. There was zero blinking, zero emotions. I was like, that was an unusual reaction.
That didn't bother them. Wow.
It didn't bother them. And I said, okay, let me tell you this. Your $5 million will go to $2.5 million. His wife turned her shoulders to him and snapped her head and went, what? I understand that. But he still didn't blink, like playing poker with me. No, you don't have to play poker with me. Let's be real. Let's get vulnerable here. And because they just entered retirement a year ago, they don't understand yet. They haven't changed the thinking. We were just talking about that. They haven't changed that the neurology of the brain. I'm saying that, is it neurology of the brain?
That's correct. Yeah, neurology.
Okay, yeah. The neurologist will even tell you, hey, you know what? Maybe I need to get a neurologist in here. Be like, let's talk about this, because you have to change from that season of life. You're no longer 35, even though on paper we're sitting at the conference table. You look like you're 35 because you're invested like you're 35, but you're 65. And so it hasn't clicked in. And so during the next crash, what if it was a crash in 2 years and you lost 55? People just don't believe it's going to happen. Mm-hmm. No, it's not going to happen to me. And then maybe this person has a lot of income, which they did. But I'm going to promise you something. I don't care if you have a $200,000 check every year coming from real estate because you have all this real estate property, which is the case. Okay, just full disclosure. When your account loses 50%, you're going to say, dang it, Charisse, you are right. This is mentally and emotionally is hitting me different because I'm not 40. Mm-hmm. I am 65. And maybe now I'm 67 and something's changed in your life. It always affects people, but they don't admit it till later. So it's okay to dig deep with your financial advisors, get a little vulnerable, have these really uncomfortable conversations. And I used to not do this with people because I was like, no, it's their prerogative. I don't want to open up that underwear drawer and dig too deep. No, I do now because so many people over the last 20 years of my life said, Charisse, I wish you would have twisted my arm. Like, why didn't you push it harder? I was like, listen, because this is your money. I'm the mediator. I'm showing you the information. But now I'm just like, no. Wake up, smell the coffee. It's real. You've worked for 40 years to earn that $5 million and you're okay for it to go down to $2.5 million. That is not okay with me. That should not be okay with you. And if you want that to happen with some of your money, I'm fine with that. But that's not going to happen in my house.
Yeah, I think that when you start to say, your money could go down 50%, they don't move. But when you say you could lose $2.5 million, all of a sudden it gets real. And that's the kind of straight talk that we need when we sit down and have a retirement conversation.
Straight talk with Charisse.
There you go. Give us a call. Let's sit down and have that meeting and talk about your retirement and talk about how much risk you have in the market. You may have done fine your whole life, but the dynamic changes when you start taking the money out instead of putting the money in. Give us a call. Here's our number, 833-368-3680, 833-368-3680, or zinniawealth.com. Look at that gold box there. Click on it. It says complimentary retirement consultation. Well, for people who like to have cash and it makes them feel good, that's something that we need to talk about because we all should have an emergency account. We know that, 3 to 6 months of cash just in case. Well, Susie Orman was talking a little bit about your emergency fund in retirement. And people said, well, how much should people have? 3, 6 months, a year? Susie Orman said you should have 3 to 5 years of cash easily accessible without selling any assets. That seems extreme to me. What do you think of that statement?
You know, she's been listening to my show. So Susie Orman is now admitting for the first time, I've never heard this from her, that in retirement, you should have 3 to 5 years in cash so that when the market does go down, you don't have to sell it. And she's huge in bonds. So that also means she doesn't believe in bonds as much anymore because even bonds go down and they're all over the place these days, the last few years. And it's probably going to continue to do that because it has this opposite relationship to interest rates. So she is changing her tune after all these years. Well, I'm going to applaud her. Yay.
Well, do you think it's because of interest rates that
yes.
the cash can now get you more than what it did 5 years ago?
So that's it. So she at least is tuning into the times.
Okay.
And you could go get a money market account. Like you can invest with us and I can get you 4.6% at Fidelity sitting in cash. So why would you go put, it's a good deal.
Okay.
But here's the story. It's like you're going to have all these people across the country listening to Susie Q and all of her amazing information. But are they going to listen when the interest rates go down and now you can't get the 4 or 4.5% in cash and now they're still sitting there at 3% and that would be a bad strategy. So this is why Susie's great. She's speaking for the masses, but this is why you have a retirement planner, a financial planner in your life. So say, hey, in a year's time when you have your review, oh, no, we can't do that anymore. We're only make 3. We got to go find something that's making 4 to 5% now just to keep up with inflation. But moral of the story is, having that much cash is not necessary. In my opinion, if you're investing all by yourself, then that's probably an important piece. But if you're working with a financial advisor, we wouldn't put 3 to 5 years in cash. That's the silliest thing I've ever heard. We're going to use alternatives and that has opportunities that, hey, we could have 5% in this one. We can still have maybe a little bit of this cash money making 4%, but here's a fixed rate at 5%. We want this. Hey, here's a 2-year strategy that, money, when the market goes up, you make money. When the market goes down, you can make money potentially. And so really spread out the diversification in a portfolio instead of just shoving it in cash. Shoving it in cash is lazy. It's an easy thing to do. And it's the way to make less money potentially, but all depending on the economic climate, of course.
Well, I think everybody comes into your office and says, there's going to be risk money and there's going to be, I'm going to use air quotes here, safe money because nothing's really safe. I mean, you could put money in a bank and still, but at the same time, money that's less vulnerable to the market. Let's use that term. And so just putting money in cash and in the bank, there are other options out there for you to have money that's not up and down with the market, but still can make you some money. And it doesn't have to be sitting in a savings account. That's kind of what I'm getting at here.
Yes. And so I'll get people who come in and they say, I made this $1 million. I don't want to pay you a fee, Charisse. I don't want to lose a dime. I only want it to go up. And then I want to take what it goes up. I've said, okay, so we are an absolute safe strategy household, right? And I won't talk them off the ledge because you can never talk them off the ledge because if they ever went into something that lost 5%, they would fire you in a second. So you have to have a very diversified bucket of safe strategies. And that does mean a little money market cash account that's making 4%. That does mean like a 2 or 3 year CD making 4 or 5%. That does mean maybe a 5-year annuity that will guarantee 5.5% every year for 5 years. That might even mean let's get a 7-year annuity that's in the S&P 500. So you can make money potentially when the S&P 500 goes up without any fees because they don't want fees. So all this is a fee-free strategy. And so there's the notes out there. There's a lot of strategies out there. So you want to mix it because you don't want to put all that $1 million just in the cash bucket. That's the worst strategy because it's like back in the day, laddering CDs. You would get a 1-year CD, a 2-year, 3-year, 4-year, sometimes a 7-year CD, and they all had different interest rates, right? The longer you committed, the higher the interest rate, but you needed liquidity. And then every year the money would come due. If you didn't spend it, you could invest it in something else. So again, you want to ladder your retirement portfolio, and shoving it all in cash or shoving it all just in a 60-40 portfolio is the worst strategy in history.
You're listening to the Retirement Coffee Talk Show with Sharice Rivers at Zinnia Wealth. We would love to have you sit down with Sharice and do your retirement math. There's money that you're going to want to have market. There's money you're going to want to have out of the market. And we can discuss all those different options for you and find that sweet spot that's going to make you confident about your retirement. Give us a call. It's 833-368-3680. Again, 833-368-3680 or zinniawealth.com. That's our website. There's a gold box there. It says complimentary retirement consultation. Click on that, and you'll be on your way. We'll take a break, and when we come back, if you have got caught in some traffic because of a high school graduation, or you went to one this year and you said, look at all these kids. Oh, my gosh, there's hundreds of them. Yeah, there's something going on right now. We'll tell you about it. Coming up next on Retirement Coffee Talk. Welcome back to Retirement Coffee Talk with Sharice Rivers at Zinnia Wealth. Online, zinniawealth.com. Give us a call. Let's do the math on your retirement. Sit down and have a meeting about it. Do some nuts and bolts on this and show you what you can expect. And if there's anything that we need to do along the way, let's get it taken care of. 833-368-3680 is our number. All right. So Ella is 15 now?
Yeah, she'll be 16 in August.
Oh, my gosh. Okay. So you're in high school, and my gosh, this is going to be you in just a couple of years.
Wait, well, guess what? Guess who's getting a new car? Mama. I decided she's getting my car. I'm going to wrap it up in a bow. It's a nice car.
There you go.
And I drive cars forever. It's just a great car. And but she did get another car. It was like $4,000. She wanted this 1995 Ford truck. And I was like, what? She's like, I'm going to fix it up. I'm like, I get in and it smells like my dad's. We called it a Vrook back in my day because it would be like a truck van and he'd cut the back half, make it look like a truck. I got in. I'm like, this smells like my childhood. Why would you want this truck? And clearly there's a boy involved that she likes that's doing his truck. And
all right.
Yeah, I'm not happy about it. So I said, you know what? If she doesn't want a newer car or, a Toyota or a Nissan, something, I'm just going to give her my car on her birthday, put a red bow on it, and I'm going to have a new car in my driveway for me.
There you go.
I was like, I made out on this deal.
Well, not too long from now, you're going to be sitting in a chair watching her walk across, and get her diploma here. If you have a high school graduate in your life this year, 2025 is the biggest year for high school graduates in our history.
What?
More high schoolers are graduating this year than any other time in our history. That's crazy, isn't it?
That's crazy. And we now just put in Florida a plan for teach them about financial wisdom. Well, a little too late for them. They didn't get it. They're screwed.
What I want to get to here is all these kids are going to want to go to college, or many of them are going to want to go to college, and it's very expensive, and obviously they're going to have some financial needs. So grandparents, let me show you about what's going on right now. Boomer grandparents are now starting a new trend. They're skipping their kids for their inheritance, and they're going right to their grandchildren and say, I would like to help my grandchild with college. I would like to help with their first car. I would like to help with their wedding, and I want to see them enjoy it. Now, are you seeing that trend with people who you sit down and do planning?
I'm seeing a little bit of that trend. The biggest trend that I'm seeing is, I'm seeing more percentages going to the grandkids, but still a percentage to the kids. So the kids still get a higher percentage and the grandkids get a lower percentage. So I am seeing that. But the other big trend I'm seeing is they're wanting to open 529 accounts or custodial accounts and teach them about stocks. They're The 529 plans are for the younger kids. So this is not for the ones that are graduating, just to help pay for the school, tax-free, let it grow tax-free as long as it's used for expenses for school. So we're seeing that. But grandparents are wanting to help. I'm noticing help the younger kids. They're also buying new cars. I just had a client says, Sharice, I need to buy a new car. His name, I'm not going to say his name, but he's graduating. And so I need an extra 30 grand. I'm like, oh, that's great. And this individual also has helped along the way by gifting early. So I'm seeing certainly more and more of that happening. So this is a trend. Because you know what? The baby boomers did such an amazing job with their kids on average that they're doing so well. A lot of them are doing very well. So the households I'm seeing are, okay, the baby boomers, these kids, they're doctors or lawyers or just have really good jobs to open their own businesses. That's who I'm seeing anyways. And they're thinking, okay, those kids are telling their parents, hey, we don't need your money. Like, we want you to enjoy your money. So now that they're rethinking who's going to get the money because they're doing pretty good. So I'm seeing more money go to the grandkids. But there is a strategy involved. Okay. Like, we need to build a trust. Some people are doing irrevocable trust. Not as big of a fan on it, but sometimes it does make sense if you feel like, okay, I've got these 5 grandkids. I have these 3 kids. One of my kids will go buy the Ferrari. I never did. So we want to have a special trust for them and their grandchildren because they're probably not teaching their kids, matter of fact, financial planning, right? And so there's a little strategy. So this is why you work with our estate planners to figure out what kind of trust that you need, depending on the season of life or how young or how old you are.
And this is part of the conversation of retirement planning, is to talk about legacy, to talk about estate planning. And many people now would like to see their relatives enjoy some of this money. And if you want to do it that way, it's going to take a little bit of planning. So let's sit down and talk through that if that's one of your concerns. Our number, once again, 833-368-3680, 833-368-3680, or our website, zinniawealth.com. Well, some kind of sad news that I saw because I enjoyed the show Cheers so much that George Wendt passed away, and he was Norm. You remember Norm on Cheers? This is one of a classic moments from Norm.
Afternoon, everybody.
Hey, what's happening, Norm?
It's a dog-eat-dog world, Sammy, and I'm wearing milk-bone underwear.
That's funny.
That's a classic Norm line right there. But
can I tell you something real quick about my childhood? My dad was not a drinker. He never went to bars or anything like that. But we watched that show every week, right? And I remember that show. Mm-hmm. What did that teach me? That going to bar after you work is a good idea. No wonder why there's so many people messed up. I'm like, there was no harm foul. Nobody thought about it, but think about it. Okay. I went left field, but I'm thinking about that. There's no way right now our families would be watching a show every week about people getting off work and drinking at a bar. Like, how funny has life changed? I just had to point that out. I thought it was funny.
That's a great job.
Anyways, back to retirement.
Back to retirement. Okay, so George had some classic lines as Norm on that show. There were so many every week. But at the same time, I want to talk a little bit about some classic lines that we hear in retirement and our financial life, because we hear these all the time. You'll pay fewer taxes in retirement. Don't tap into your 401k until the government says so. Hang in there. The market will always come back. I mean, we hear this stuff and they're classic lines, but a lot of time it's kind of nonsense, isn't it, Sharice?
It is. So classic lines in retirement, like you said, spend less because you don't want to run out. How many advisors have you heard don't want you spending money? Like, no, spend your money. Just have a plan, a well-oiled plan to make sure that we don't run out of money potentially, right? Don't worry about the stock market because it's all going to go down. We're all going to go down together. It's okay. And we're all going to come up together. I'm like, hello. How many times have you heard that in retirement? It's going to go down and we're all going to go down together and we're all going to come up together. And you're thinking, now I'm living on my money. This is not going to work. Next, I need a new advisor. Taxes. Hey, your taxes are going to go lower. No, I'm sorry. They're not going to go lower. We're in the biggest debt crisis we've ever seen in history. Mm-hmm. And we're trying to get out of it, but somebody's got to pay the piper. And most people's taxes already are higher than when they were working in retirement because there's all these hazards and Social Security provisional things. And you got this and you got this, Medicare surtax. And So on average, most people's are higher or at least the same, which is incredible. So a lot of myths out there. We want to debunk them in retirement. It's a different noise you need to listen to. And what you learned in your 80s and 90s isn't what quite to be true moving forward.
Yeah, we've blown up a lot of this stuff on the show, the 60-40 portfolio and the 4% rule and all these different things that are things that have been around for years. But as Cherise says, many of those things were developed in the 80s and the 90s, which is a completely different economy than we have right now. So some of those things might hold true, others may not, and we need to be able to tell the difference in what's right for us. That's why we have this show, is kind of to alert you to these kind of things and to say, hey, if you want to sit down and talk through them, let's do that together. To do a portfolio X-ray, to sit down, do that complimentary retirement consultation. That's really why we have this show, is to say, let's talk about your retirement. 833-368-3680 is our number. 833-368-3680 or online, ZinniaWealth.com, ZINNIA Wealth.com. You're going to see a gold box that says complimentary retirement consultation. When you click on that, we're going to ask you to put in a little information there so our team at Zinnia Wealth can reach out to you, find out what you're interested in talking about, and let's get to work on your retirement. Cherise, that is all the time we have on the show for today. I'm going to give you the last word.
Oh, what a fun show. This was a fun one. We were full of jokes today and isms, Cherise isms. Well, listen, if you want some of those Cherise isms, we talked about some really important things too today, along with having fun. Go to our podcast, Retirement Coffee Talk, on Spotify, iTunes, YouTube, right on your Apple phones. We're all over the place. And hit the rewind button. And as usual, live by design and not by default. And we'll see you here next week.
This has been Retirement Coffee Talk. To find out more about how the strategies we've discussed on this program can build the retirement you've been wanting, call Zinnia Wealth at 352-368-3680 or visit us online at ZinniaWealth.com.
Investment advisory services offered through Zinnia Wealth Advisory, LLC, a registered investment advisor. The firm only conducts business in states where it is properly registered or is excluded from registration requirements. Registration is not an endorsement of the firm by securities regulators and does not mean the advisor has achieved a specific level of skill or ability. Insurance products are offered through Zinnia Wealth Management, LLC, Florida license L078655, and Cherise Rivers, Florida license P037744. Zinnia Wealth Advisory, LLC, and Zinnia Wealth Management, LLC are affiliated entities. The information presented is believed to be current. It should not be viewed as personalized investment advice. All expressions of opinion reflect the judgment of the presenter on the date of the podcast and are subject to change. The information presented is not an offer to buy or sell or a solicitation of any offer to buy or sell any of the securities discussed. You should consult with a professional advisor before implementing any of the strategies discussed. Any legal or tax information provided in this podcast is general in nature. Always consult an attorney or tax professional regarding your specific legal or tax situation. Any client experience discussed on this show are unique to that client. Annuity and life insurance guarantees are subject to the claims paying ability of the issuing insurance company. If you withdraw money from or surrender your contract within a certain time after investing, the insurance company may assess a surrender charge. Withdrawals may be subject to tax penalties and income taxes. Persons selling annuities or other insurance products receive compensation for these transactions. These commissions are separate and distinct from fees charged for advisory services. Insurance products also contain additional fees and expenses. Social Security rules and regulations are subject to change at any time. Always consult with your local Social Security office before acting upon any information provided herein. References to specific investments should not be construed as being past specific recommendations. The returns for various indices discussed in this podcast do not represent the performance of the firm or any of its advisory clients. Returns do not reflect the impact that advisory fees will have on an investment. Past performance may not be indicative of future results. All investment strategies have potential for profit or loss. Different types of investments involve higher and lower levels of risk. There is no guarantee that a specific investment strategy will be suitable or profitable for an investor's portfolio. Historical performance returns for investment indexes and or categories usually do not deduct transaction and or custodial charges or advisory fees, which would decrease historical performance results. There are no guarantees that a portfolio will match or outperform a specific benchmark. Investments in fixed income products are subject to liquidity risk, market risk, index rate risk, credit risk, inflation risk, purchasing power risk, and taxation risk. Because bond prices fluctuate continually, their yields change constantly.